Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Tuesday, July 14th, 2026 Planning Board meeting. We'll start the meeting at 7:03. Everyone will please stand. Sure. If everyone please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. Are the mics on? Can you hear me? It's just for the TV. We have no mics for the room? Just that. Okay. All right. So we'll all try to speak up. Can you hear me now? Okay. Just raise your hand or whatever if we start veering off. First item on the agenda are public comments. These are public comments related to any items that are not on the agenda this evening. Any members of the public wish to speak to an item that's not on the agenda? Certainly. The agenda this evening is review and approval of our minutes, and then review and discussion on the proposed rewrite of the town master plan, and then the application for the 14 Elm Street property. So if you have comments about any of those items, you would hold them until we open the hearing on that item. Seeing none, I'll close public comments. Next is a review and approval of the minutes of June 9th, 2026. Any members have any additions or corrections? If not, is there a motion to approve? For Jeff, motion, second? Second. Okay. Any comments? Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Motion carries. Okay. Next was the pursuant to RSA 674-2-4, section 4.16 of the Town Master Plan and Municipal Code of the Town of Newmarket. Notice is hereby given that the Planning Board will hold a public hearing to review and adopt a new master plan comprising of the following chapters, enumerated here and below, or take any other action relative thereto. 1 is the vision chapter, 2, existing and future land use, 3, arts, culture, and historic resources, 4, community facilities and utilities, 5, downtown riverfront, 6, economic development, 7, energy, 8, housing, 9, land and water conservation, 10, recreation, 11, transportation. The proposed master plan chapter amendments can be viewed by visiting the following link below or by visiting the Department of Planning and Community Development located in the town hall. So this is a project that's been being worked on by the town for over 2 years now with various subcommittees and a lot of different visioning sessions and people involved with these particular chapters that I've just outlined. It's a complete rewrite of the entire master plan, which would be pretty much the vision of the town over the next 10 years. So I will open, first of all, Carrie is here, our Stratford Regional Planner. Do we want a motion first to adopt? We'll just open, okay. So I'll have Carrie come forward.
Great, thank you. I'm so excited. So many people have come to the public hearing for the master plan this evening. I'm sure you all have your comments prepared and ready to really examine each chapter of the master plan, because I know that's why you're all here. So I thought it would be, a lot of the members of the planning board have seen these chapters multiple times. So Bart and I thought that it would be a little bit more fun and engaging to preview the website as we walk through the different chapters. So Rachel, the architect of the website, is here to solicit feedback on the website, as well as and she will continue to refine the website as we go forward. I don't know if anybody wants to see from over there, but So this is the master plan. What? Oh, okay.
Yeah, thank you.
I don't know. We'll see. So it's beeping.
What Carrie is reviewing is what what the link will bring you to, is everything
Right.
that she's going through.
So the website, is it just disconnected? Thank you. Don't break
Let's
it.
have multiple screens.
So this is the landing page, the introduction, and it goes over the 5 themes that carry through each of the chapters. And then each of the chapters has its own tile. So when you click on vision, for example, you get the vision chapter, and so all of the vision statements from each chapter. You can also navigate to each chapter from the links on the page. And there is also the ability to download a PDF. So all of the vision statements are there. And then, oops. So that's the vision. And then, so you can also navigate from the top bars. So from chapters, then you can pick chapters. I like the introduction page just because I like the tiles. So we can go through each chapter, or just
You can just do a general
a general.
overview.
Okay, so I'll just pick
if
one chapter,
people
and
have
then
questions.
yeah, and then so for example, I know arts, culture, and historic resources is always a fun one, and so this has all of the vision, and then all of the different themes, and then you can navigate to each one from the right table of contents, and then if you just click on the PDF, the chapter will come up and you can download it. So each one is set up the same way. And then what we also wanted to show you was the implementation, which is really fun, and Rachel has spent a lot of time putting this together. And this, I think, going forward, will be part of your long-range planning committee's work. So it's an interactive map of the town, and it has all of the actions by chapter. So you can click on, red is arts, culture, and historic resources. And then you can also search by the theme, so actions by theme. And then you can zoom in. Pretty far in.
Yeah, a little further.
Where'd it go? I think I went too far.
Oh, you can get,
So, I don't know.
just light them up.
Light them all up. There we go. So each of those indicates an action by chapter and by theme. So you can click on it, and then the recommendation for that will pop up in a little box. So this is community facilities and utilities action item, and it's the theme is accessibility and affordability. And then the goal is to revisit the CIP plan annually to ensure that capital improvement needs have not changed and funding needs have not changed when larger enhancement projects might best fit in with existing capital needs. So that's the action and goal for that particular one. So you can kind of slice and dice, and it shows you what chapter you're in, and then what goal you're in. So this can be updated annually, or however you guys want to use it going forward. But we thought it would be a nice way to show things going forward. And so this is actions by chapter, but you can also select we had talked about like a table of all of the different themes, chapter, goals, and actions. So that pops up. That can be a choice to look at, or actions by chapter. So
one question I had about that was,
Yeah.
I didn't spend some time on this, but I couldn't really figure out, like, where is the link or a tab to get to almost like a spreadsheet of, and by the way, great job for this, where there is the link to get to a spreadsheet of, by chapter, the action items, and I know we haven't gotten into responsibility of parties, etc., but that it was just one documental snapshot, not just the interactive back and forth.
okay, so like just a PDF of
A PDF
of
would
the
be
big-
perfect as like a table,
The table.
grid, similar
Okay.
to what is we have at the
massive
end of
table.
each chapter. A master
Yeah,
table.
we had talked about, we kind of gone back and forth about doing, like, in the chapter tiles, having the, each individual table show up as, I don't know if we did that or not. We didn't, okay. But we can just do one big table as a download.
Well, I think it will be a good planning tool, and then it will also identify which ones are in multiple chapters. So if we have one action item, we might be hitting off, with one action, checking off 6 goals,
Right,
across chapters.
right, right.
So that was the only thing that I
Okay,
was, didn't see, that I thought would be helpful.
okay, great.
Yeah, definitely like that idea of trying to figure the public facing side and kind of seeing where the focus work on, and that'll kind of evolve.
Right, right.
Terry, did you want to modify this?
Yeah.
You do
Yeah,
How
we,
do
so you want to explain, Rachel? We have set it up based on this table, so it can be easily updated, because it just gets put into the
You
GIS.
give Rachel
But
the,
I will give this
microphone.
to Rachel to explain the technical details.
Tim? Oh. See if he has any we have any speakers in here for the public?
So,
That's what I thought.
so the way that this is set up is tied to that spreadsheet version of the implementation plan. So to update this, if you get me an updated spreadsheet, then I can get it updated.
Let's say we wanted to add another element of progress
Sure.
made.
Yep. Yeah, we could add that pretty easily as well. In the spreadsheet. It's just not included in here at the moment because it's not filled out for everything, but once it is filled out more, we can get it added in.
So, if we want to change it, we go through you.
Yep. Yeah, through BART.
Yeah.
We can look at ways to streamline it so that BART can make updates to it in the future as well.
Okay. Master plan for after each quarter, right? Maybe action sample, progress set, and take that back to them and have it updated with this program.
Well, one of the first action items will be prioritization of the various goals. In each chapter. And then that's what that whole committee is hopefully working.
Yeah, and I guess this doesn't really show how that's being prioritized,
Right.
yet, but I might
I think
have to do some of
once we
that.
get a spreadsheet.
Yeah, I'm sure that's something that should see where the focus is
Is there a way that then we could probably do something to signify, priority?
Yeah, I think even if we just had it as well, if you just line item, if it's right there, or if there was a way to identify top priority items,
Any other questions from the board.
So I just, once we adopt their responsibility,
The contract.
Yep. And the only thing is just the website, just working with Rachel on the website, which we reviews.
I'll open this up to public comments. This will be regarding the master plan. Any questions? Comments? If you would come forward, please, to the microphone, your name and address, please. Well, there's also people at home that want to hear.
When, commenting on one thing, when are you taking public comment on this master plan? You're presenting it now, people can really read it and see what it is.
We've been taking public comments for several months as we've been going through each chapter. But this is the first public hearing of the complete master plan. Yeah. So I think we have the ability to vote on it tonight because we posted it for the public hearing. I think we'll have a discussion on that. Do you have a comment about timing or?
You had been able to do that for a long.
Yeah. I think that the question would be, will more time provide opportunity for the public to comment now that they see the whole thing together, as opposed to what's been just continually posted and, over the past couple of years,
Correct.
which have been the drafts. Okay, thank you. Okay. No, we adopt the master plan. We would vote tonight to continue the public hearing on the adoption. Correct. And then that would give the opportunity for people to, again, have more time to review what is considered, from the planning board perspective, where we have come to the final master plan. But we can't adopt it until we have, obviously, public comment.
this is a living document, right? And you can always change things.
Yes, so this is the first time that the master plan in Newmarket has been completely rewritten since 2001. Okay, so since 2001 forward, I think it was probably 2 years ago when we did amended. So during that period of time, every few years we were just updating one chapter, as things, changed, or what was the priority. Ideally, under state law, you should update the master plan every 10 years. So, some communities will say, like now we would have like the choice to say, okay, well, every year, over the next 10 years, let's update a chapter, and then we would be in compliance. Or it may be that we're just using, to Bill's point, we could just say, we want to change one chapter, and we would work on that. And we can revise that chapter and amend it. Or we could wait 10 years and do a whole nother rewrite. So, but it is a living document. And it really is a document to drive, what is happening over the next years within the community. Whether it is zoning changes based upon, recommendations through the master plan. The Zoning Board of Adjustment will, Mr. Daigle's here, they rely on that to see whether or not a variance meets the intent of the master plan when they're hearing applications.
As long as the state doesn't take any more.
Yeah, exactly. The capital improvement, CIP, all of our, the budgets in town, very much are driven by the master plan. So it's the kind of the planning document of the town. Any other questions at this point from the public? Comments? Given Mr. Daigle's comments, any discussion on the board about continuing the hearing versus a motion to approve at the tonight's meeting?
think it's been a long time. Folks have seen it in bits and pieces over a couple of years. But it's not that easy to digest that much. To see it in its entirety and then interact with it and kind of go through it. It's not. I think it's, I would support that.
This is very
So this could be live on the Newmarket website. We can get it into the, out into the weekly bulletin.
Someone's we designated as a preliminary or something like that.
I was just saying,
Yeah.
not adopted.
Well, it is proposed, but it's the final.
Yeah.
It is the proposed. We're having the next public hearing. We decided we're going to just, continue the hearing on it. Next public hearing would be August.
That's probably a better way to put it. Proposed.
11th. So therefore, give the public time, if they do want to submit comments either to the town planner or come to the meeting on August 11th before because then we have the ability, obviously, to modify before a final adoption. And we can continue that.
August 9th. Long Beach.
So what is the board's desire? Entertain a motion? Yes. Yeah, the public hearing is actually still open. You just give your name and address.
So you haven't had one published since 2001?
No, we've been, a complete rewrite of all chapters was in 2001.
And this will be the second.
Complete rewrite. So over that period of 25 years, there's been several updates, modifications, amendments to individual chapters.
Okay. Amazing work. Truly. Is there a way to see the current one on the
Current one is on the website.
So if you were to give like a link to the new one, the proposed possible new one, then one could digest both and sort of understand what the differences are, what the deltas are?
You could.
It's definitely a different program.
Yeah, you won't see consistencies in the formatting.
It's not a one-to-one, okay.
It's a
Yeah.
mosaic.
Yeah.
So there's some chapters that have updates since 2000. Some of them more recently. The idea was to have a nice reset,
Yep.
fresh base start.
Understood. So I think what I'm trying to get to, the question is around, what are those major deltas? And is there a way to enlighten, at a high level, what the major deltas are so that people can really understand? Aside from the fact that it's beautiful and it's readable and you have a heat map and there's different sections, like what are those bigger things that are changing as a result of this master plan? And so I know that's a lot of work. And maybe the onus is on us as individual community members to figure that out for ourselves, but I think that's where
I understand the summary.
a summary, like an executive summary to say that aside from the beautification of it and the better applicability to be able to use the website and click through it and all the things, yeah, that executive summary of what's the big deal? Right, I mean, I'm guessing it's around some of the zoning changes and the fact that you want to have more affordable housing here and you want to be able to develop on more areas for more residential communities, et cetera. I mean, that's, to me, when I read it, that's my big delta that I take away, but maybe there are other things that are as important. And I feel like if you did that, then maybe everybody wouldn't go to that one. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I'm thinking the early on work of each. So every chapter had a subcommittee made up of 6 to 15 people. And then there was overall visioning sessions that were community-wide, and then there were individual workshops on the different chapters. And one of the primary or first work of each committee, or subcommittee, I should say, chapter committee, was looking at the existing chapter, right, and then doing exactly what you're referring to, as to what's still applicable. For instance, economic development. There's a whole section on the Blackbeard tip. Anyone here know or remember what the Blackbeard tip is? Probably 2 people in here? Yeah, doesn't exist anymore, but it's still in the master plan. So going through and saying what doesn't apply. Or the Conservation Commission, there's so much has changed there. They were the lead on the land use chapter, for instance, of conservation. So yeah, that kind of that was a preliminary review of existing versus next. But the big thing with this particular process was coming to a consistency between every chapter of the key elements that are in each chapter. That they all have, how do we meet the 6 particular, requirements of each of the chapters. But, Bart, you can comment on how you pull that together as to...
Yeah, I think the way to start with this is...
I know like it's annoying for somebody like me to come up here and say, be
No, it's
so
great.
easy,
No.
because you've been doing all this work for so long, but I do think it would just, like, I know what jumps out to me, but
a lot of it depends on what you're interested in.
Right.
So if you're interested in housing, development, or housing factor, the whole section of conservation, maintenance, operation.
Bart, are you going to our current?
So it depends on what you're interested in. You want to do all of it.
So, for everyone, this is where you're going to find it. You find it on the work, afternoon gentlemen, also work with the out here in sidebar of the, draft master plan, links to the website. Again, here already, what I can work on, kind of try to do a comparison of what I might be able to one achieve or what it has in the next plan, what we're trying to do now. So some chapters that are existing, that come into existence, so it'll be a little bit more difficult. But I will try to best my ability to kind of see where that goes. For everyone.
Thanks,
Yeah, I think if there's just like with you something by principles and by the election papers.
It's a lot.
Over a year to 2 other chapters.
A year?
Just reviewing our own stuff. I think that would help a lot. But it is still a living document, so I feel like us to say that it's good. Really that if we will say just the overall vision. We really know how we're implementing it, right? It's just guiding principle, binding of the document.
Yes, please. But you have to come to the microphone, and we need your... Carrie, one other comment. If you can... The AC. There's no AC?
There's no AC.
We,
There's no AC.
well, I mean, we can try that over there, but
Here he gets AC. Carrie, can you, let's keep the noise, please. Hold on. Can you update the planning board members?
Yes.
But I think we want to recognize the planning board members, the past members that participated.
Yeah. I was just actually talking to Rachel about updating, at the bottom here is, the credits. So, I was just talking about we needed to update with the subcommittee members, and then we'll list the current planning board members, and then.
Under that, past, planning board members
Yep.
or additional. I want to make sure that the document recognizes the prior members of the board who have worked a lot on this,
Yeah. No,
project
yeah,
over the past couple
definitely.
of
This
years.
was just sort of we haven't finished this
Yeah,
part yet.
okay.
So, yeah, we will update that, and that's on the introduction page. How that
And I didn't see a reference to all the committee members.
That's what we're adding in,
Okay,
yeah.
that would be huge.
Right, yes. So I was like, oh, we have to add each chapter subcommittees.
However we want to do it, I just
Yeah,
think there
or
were
just-
so many people involved, they should.
There were a lot of
they should-
people
credit
involved.
should be given.
Yeah, so we can add that too. There are a lot of members of the community that participated that weren't on any,
They're not on boards, but they're
Right.
volunteers on the committees.
Yeah, right. Yeah, okay.
Great, thank you. Okay, but George?
George, what is teaching the job? As you proceed in the motion, I would ask that, what is your overall goal to get this adopted? I mean, is there, when it's up, by December of this year, it has to be adopted, or?
Spring 2026. I think
Okay,
we're
so
in
you have
summer.
time to do more.
No, we've already passed, yeah. So, I mean, there's nothing pressing to, adopt this evening. Right, we definitely,
Like you were going to, now there's three times.
Yes.
That's great. But I guess what you're thinking, we think is we lay out a tentative plan of what you really want to do. So, things will be published on the website. August, for next year, we have the comments and
comment?
I think, given the events this evening, I think it would, have the board continue the public hearing would be prudent to August, maybe a month for comments, and then take it by month, meet more. If more comment comes in and more discussion, then I think it's not unreasonable to continue the discussion. If there's general agreement, consensus, I think the board can make a motion, or can vote on it, in my opinion.
just for the goal.
Yeah,
Public knows that the vote is going to be.
oh, absolutely, that's, because we've been doing, the process has been chapter by chapter, so now we're at the consolidation of the chapters, but
Read it as one document.
as one document, 100%,
Now you
100% correct,
the website's only going to be published tomorrow.
with all the chapters.
That really needs to be.
The chapters were on
Yeah.
so it's not like we're introducing.
No.
It is now.
Correct. We're fine, yes, we're only now to the point of the timing of adoption. Okay. No, yeah, no, good input.
What other people have said,
Absolutely.
What do you want to happen? Well, I'd say we're going to go with the flow of it. If we give it a direction,
Replacing the current document. Because everything right now falls under the current document. Bill?
I guess to give a little more direction, I wouldn't focus so much on the substantive chapter, with the read the chapter, but if you want to come back to comments, I'd focus on the action items. And that would be really neat going forward. The action items on the chapter. Have a comment on.
I think it helps set priorities for sure.
Yeah, so I guess for me, I would be in favor of this is probably not the best one we go line by line on everything. I think what would help us is to have an overall vision of the big direction, go, and along with the planning subcommittee.
Zach's referring to a new committee that the planning board has now, which is made up of some of the department heads, planning board members, members at large. We still have openings, correct? So that's been posted for members. People are interested to get on that long-range planning committee, which is really about the implementation of the district. Implementation of that would be huge. If you want to get involved with the direction of the town, that's definitely going to be the committee.
I think it would be helpful to have a timeline for like 2 months out. You know, otherwise I could see it going on for a long time. So I think it might be wise to say look for approval by September, but I don't know if that's realistic. If we get comments in August, and then we have a modified version for the September meeting. Is it October?
I think having this public hearing on this continue to August 11th, and then understanding who comes to the August 11th meeting with comments, or comments that have been submitted to Art, I think would then drive what our decision is at August 11th.
But I do obviously I fully support continuing, as I mentioned right off, but I can see, it took us 2 years, a year and a half, 2 years to get to this point.
2 years.
or continuous work by a lot of people, and would like to see it this fall anyway.
Yeah, I guess in my mind, we've already kind of got to this point where, as a board, I feel like I'm comfortable with the document pending the public comment. So, depending on if there's actually anything in there that is worth changing, that depends on whether we approve it next meeting or not. We're really just waiting on to hear what you guys. We've already worked on it. We're comfortable with it. That's why we put it to public hearing. So we just need to get that kind of sense that there's that buy-in on your guys' end before we go forward. So. Yeah, I'm in favor of just pushing the public comments to continue to next August and give people time to socialize it, look at it, right? Bring us up any comments that may make us have to take more action on it.
Yeah, I don't expect many big changes, and I think with the goal of hopefully voting to approve it in August, we can make minor amendments and adjustments during the approval process. So I hope that the goal is voting to approve in August, and then everyone can move forward.
Yeah, my only fear is we have a certain section of town here right now, I think, because not too many people did come to the planning board meeting.
then we have a public hearing on a different project in a different part of town, and not many can come back, and then it's a different group of people that see it for the first time, they're like, oh wow, you know what I mean? So I can just see that perpetuating.
Well, it's a big document, I have no problem with supporting, the process of continuing the public hearing. And that went to the point where this will finally get actually posted as one concise integrated document, where before it's all been just the piecemeal of each of the chapters in draft forms, or as approved, by the planning board to move forward. So with that, I hope there's any other comments in the audience. I'll take a motion to continue the
Make a motion to continue the public comments on this item
to August 11th.
to August 11th.
For a second?
Second.
Second by Bill. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, carried. Next, is the applicant here?
Yeah.
Do we need more seats?
Can I just sit here?
Yes, that's done, I think. It's follow-up tomorrow.
Maybe Mark can grab a couple more chairs. Mark?
Yes. I will try to find some.
Jeff needs to sit down.
There's 2 seats over there, if you're not sitting. I'll find it.
There's a few chairs over here. Seat 3. More seats. Okay. Good standing. Okay. Jeff, I guess you can run one after. All right, I think we're good.
Okay, I'm just getting to the.
Okay, while you pull that up,
Yeah.
next on the agenda is pursuant to RSA 677, 4, section 2.02, design review of appendix B, site plans. We have no,
Yeah, sorry.
site plans of the municipal code of the town of Newmarket, New Hampshire. Notice is hereby given that the design review application requested by applicants Altus Engineering and Portsmouth Architects representing Cheney East Company will be reviewed by the planning board to discuss and approve input on a development concept for a property located at 14 Elm Street, tax map U2, lot 245 in the Village Quarter Center District. The first concept proposes an apartment building with an 11,720 square foot footprint comprising 20 dwelling units and 25 parking spaces with associated utilities and infrastructure. The application is on file with the Department of Planning and Community Development Office located in Town Hall with an address of 186 Main Street. This is a design review hearing. This is not an application that has been accepted by the planning board. Design review allows an applicant to present their concept to the planning board, and abutters are notified, so there is public notice to all abutters as well. Everything here is non-binding. The applicant comes for design review to get input from abutters and the general public, as well as input from the planning board as to what concerns the planning board may have, or questions about the proposed design. So that's what we're here tonight for. This is not an application that the planning board is voting on. No applications actually been submitted. This is strictly a review meeting and an opportunity for the applicant to understand concerns or questions or get clarification, on the zoning ordinance. Whether, what they want to do is before the planning board or the variance from the zoning board, etc. Okay, so if anyone has any questions about that, unless the applicant will step aside, please.
Sorry, I'm sorry.
Just a question on process.
Just a question. Has anything been approved for that?
No,
lot?
no.
Nothing at all?
This is design concept review period.
We were told it was a variance,
No,
not a
we
variance.
don't deal with variances.
So nothing has been approved.
For that lot.
There's been no application before any boards, like an
Okay.
application relative to.
Thank you.
any type of development. The ZBA is here, that's correct.
We've
No
got nothing in front of us.
So, Jim?
I'm gonna recuse myself, a member of the survey, but I could.
Thank you. I will hand it over to the applicant, introduce themselves and provide a general overview and what you're looking for from the board this evening, for the public.
Good evening, members of the board and community. My name is Richard Desjardins. I'm from Portsmouth Architects, along with Mark Giannini from our office, Patrick Journey from Altus Engineering, as well as members from the Cheney companies, the owners of the lot. We were previously before you for design review in February for this proposed redevelopment. The package has been attached as an addendum in our submission just for reference. We are back after we received positive and constructive feedback on option 1. After that conversation, we have made positive improvements to that option and have provided the board with a more detailed site information for discussion. We have listed all key dimensional reductions between the previous proposal and this proposal on this sheet. One standout item being the reduction of almost 2,000 square feet to the building footprint. There are two key historical facts that we wanted to bring to the board's attention, demonstrating the history of the site and surrounding neighborhood that we were trying to recall in this proposal. Previously, 14 Elm Street was home to the Elm Block, which was a 76-foot wide, 3-story tenement house, providing housing for the mills. Behind the tree in the top right image, you'll see 12 Elm Street for reference. Across the street, where the existing concrete retaining wall remnants are, that is the actual former foundation of the number 8 mill, which you can see in the bottom 2 images. This is a 2-story mill building covering 5 acres of land, dwarfing the public library, which you can see in both images. Our overall goal here is to draw form and material inspiration from this historical context and Newmarket's rich mill building history along Elm Street and accentuate the Nichols Ave intersection with a brick stair and elevator tower as suggested during the February meeting. In the rear, at the Washington Street intersection, the style of the building changes to a mansard roof structure. This is the design team's way of making this building appear as multiple buildings separated by firewalls. The choice of the mansard roof is to help make this building step down towards the residential neighborhood behind, which aligns with the feedback we received back in February. Historically speaking, this building along Elm Street is not out of context in this perspective. This proposal is providing more space between these buildings and preserving the largest, healthiest tree along Elm Street. 14 Elm Street is a unique site situated on 3 street fronts and is 17,000 square feet, substantially larger than the zone minimum lot size of 3,000 square feet and nearby properties by over 5 times. Both of which are driving some of our relief requests and why some of our requests are seemingly redundant. This lot size can accommodate and warrants a larger building for urban infill. Nichols Ave and Washington Street serve as the zoning district boundary to the R3 zoning district, which is a zone that has been identified in the proposed master plan as an area for zoning reevaluation to encourage a variety of housing affordability and diversity. This site is also located within the center of the North Gateway, which was recognized as an area for encouraging future development. Key changes between the previous iteration and now are as follows. We have eliminated the Washington Street build-out request. The parking garage is now fully enclosed, concealing all parking within the structure along with bikes, trash, tenant storage, and mechanical systems. During our exploration of reducing building coverage, we've taken out just about 10 feet in building width. which is smaller than the goal number that we mentioned in February, but I wanted to explain this trade-off briefly. To make this building appear as multiple buildings, we have increased the pushing and pulling across the street frontage. During this exercise, we have strategically ensured that there are no flat portions of the building's elevations, exceeding the zoning maximum lot build out of 50 feet on Elm Street and 100 feet on Nichols Ave. These pushes and pulls are significant dimensions of 3 to 5 feet, not a mere set of inches or materials like some developments. Parking spaces were reduced due to the almost 2,000 square foot reduction in building footprint, but still exceed the zoning required minimum of 0 by providing 1 space minimum per bedroom. This proposal allows for 1 full car queuing into the garage completely off street into a one-way parking garage exiting out onto Washington Street, all of which has been previously reviewed with DPW. During the building size reduction, we have increased setbacks on most lot lines, allowing for more space for landscaping, which will be designed for your review. Along the corner of Nichols and Elm, the team is also proposing a multifunctional bench to help activate this corner at the street and integrate the bus stop that will be removed during this project. After review,
Is that not working?
no, it's not. After reviewing the town's proposed master plan, it is apparent that more multifamily housing developments are needed due to the housing shortage facing Newmarket, which needs 164 units by 2030. One of the perks of this development is the diverse unit sizes contributing to the town's housing needs. Units range from a 488 square foot studio to a 1,450 square foot 2-bedroom unit. This type of approach helps attract a diverse set of tenants aligned with the proposed master plan, specifically page 5 within the vibrancy section of the housing chapter. Our building community-based elements are as follows. We are proposing over a 1,000 square foot community rooftop deck accessible to the entire building via elevator. This deck is large enough to accommodate outdoor activities such as cornhole, while also allowing for spaces for tables and chairs, all to encourage gathering among the tenants. The second floor has a shareable office space to encourage interaction throughout the workday. In a world where working from home has become an integral piece of everyday life, this program is meant to reintroduce social interaction during the workday and is an element that would mesh well with the types of units that we're providing here. The third floor will have more of a lounge located in the same space as the shared office, which is noted as 209. This is to be used for gathering tenant meetings and potentially routine community-based programming. Our intention is to design these 2 interior spaces with glass walls to encourage curiosity and interaction with the space and other building tenants. We are also proposing a partial building green roof to aid in stormwater retention and cut down on the heat island effect. This also helps make the roof deck a more desirable place for social interaction. The next sheet are some building elevations, and these are dimensioned to the large pushes and pulls that I mentioned earlier. Along Elm Street specifically, the proposed elevation is actually 3 feet narrower than the former historic Elm Block building. The Village Corridor District is not for residential suburban development. This proposal is a street-defining building form consistent with Newmarket's core village pattern. Our goal is to design a transition structure. The stepping down effect we are creating is seen here from the tower to the flat roof to the mansard roof in item number 1. Importantly, the flat roof and the mansard roof portions of the project are both below the neighboring zoning's max building height. This is all intentional to design this building in a way to properly transition out of the Village Corridor District to the R3 district. To put this into perspective with the neighboring properties and current zoning, all the hatched areas on this sheet represent the buildable volumes per the zoning. For instance, 1 Spring Street, which is the parking lot across the street, can in the future be a taller structure than what we are proposing and right up to the property line along Elm Street. The existing structure on this property is actually already 54 feet wider than the zoning allowed 100 feet and 12 feet longer than our proposed overall build out with 0 pushing and pulling. And just a few properties further down Spring Street at 1020 Spring Street, there is a 124-foot long 2-story townhouse building with no facade modulation. To conclude architecturally, these 4 images are of this project situated within the digital massing model of the site, all taken from eye level. These images illustrate how this building will complement the neighborhood, providing adequate space between neighboring properties as well as the appearance of multiple buildings separated by firewalls. The massing of this proposal is appropriate for a lot of this size, which presents itself as a unique opportunity for the downtown area. The aerial site plan, please. And before I pass this over to Patrick from Altus, who will review the site improvements, I just want to touch on how this project is suitable for this location. This project is within a 2-minute walk of Main Street. Just after keep going. 2-minute walk of Main Street and a 4-minute walk of central downtown Newmarket. This encourages tenants to walk to grab coffee or work downtown, reducing traffic trips and easing pressure on the town's parking supply. This walkability is a factor of community-focused development, inevitably encouraging downtown business and a pedestrian-friendly design. Within this same ring, there are 3 other buildings providing more than 20 units. Modest density on the second largest lot among its immediate abutters support walkability and downtown vitality, which is an important purpose of this district. With elevator access, an enclosed parking garage, and the walkable proximity to downtown and several parks, this modest 20-unit development aligns with the master plan's vibrant housing goals of creating a housing stock for aging in place and improving the rental stock in town along with various other sections. During our conversation after public comment, we appreciate a conversation specifically revolving around relief that we are requesting with this proposal. Thank you for this time, and Patrick's just going to go over a few of the site-related elements.
So in regard to the site design, since February, we've progressed and refined the design quite a bit. We went back out and collected more survey information at the intersection of Elm and Nichols in regard to the drainage and the sidewalks there. A few weeks ago, we met with Bart and Lindsay to discuss the tech classics for the project, and a large part of that discussion revolved around traffic and safety as well as drainage. For the traffic and safety and vehicular movement around the site, the intent is for vehicles to enter on Elm Street and exit on Washington, then exiting onto Nichols. So we're not too concerned with vehicle movement around the building being a surplus. In addition, the crosswalks and ADA ramps on Elm and Nichols are not in the best of shape and not in the ideal location. We are proposing to relocate those crosswalks, paint, and rebuild the ADA crosswalks. I'll get to that in more detail in a second. And at that corner as well, since there was a bus station there, we moved the power since the February meeting. We also anticipate a bit of landscaping along the sidewalk in between the building and the crosswalks. If you want to go to so this is a zoom in the bottom left of the proposed new crosswalk location. You can also see, well, as part of the additional design of the drainage, we found that a majority of the site discharges to the catch basin on the corner of Washington and Nichols, which is currently a slightly undersized drainage system over there. As part of our design, we will be redirecting a lot of the flow from the building directly onto Elm into the larger pipe that flows down Elm Street towards the library, thus providing relief to the undersized drainage system over on the corner of Nichols and Washington. We also propose to realign the curbing there and relocate the catch basin, as it's not an ideal location. We believe we can increase flow directly to that catch basin and improve this city system in that area. In addition, we've also proposed some drainage detention stormwater areas in the back of the building to provide treatment and slow down peak flows before entering the city system. The green roof will also provide some level of treatment and slow down peak flows as well before getting into the system. A majority of the existing lot is impervious, a lot of that being pavement. Our proposed building would significantly reduce the amount of pavement impervious. There would still be an increase in impervious overall, but far cleaner water coming off the roof rather than a pavement area, salt, sand, stuff of that nature. Overall, we see it as an improvement to the town's drainage system as we're redirecting a lot of the flow away from the catch basin on Nichols and Washington and into the larger drainage system on Elm Street. And if you go to the last street. In regard to the other utilities on the site, the electric, the water, and the sewer, there's existing utilities on all three sides of the building that we have access to and are proposing to connect into. Don't see that being an issue to get the building connected to those systems.
Thank you. Good. Yep, good. I'll now open the hearing for public comments. When you come here, please speak into the mic. Please your name and address, please.
Good evening. My name is Andrew Hart. I live at 6 Lincoln Ave with my wife Kimberly, who spoke earlier. Before I get going, thank you for allowing us the opportunity to speak. Thank you for the presentation. That's great fodder there. I'm here to raise objection to the proposed development plan titled 14 Elm Street. First off, it's a misnomer because it does, as you mentioned, front on three sides, Elm Street, Nichols, Washington, which also bends at a 90-degree angle and turns into Lincoln Ave. The description, I call it the Nichols Street Avenue neighborhood. Could be described as very narrow streets, sidewalks only on Nichols, no sidewalks on Washington or Lincoln where I live. Lincoln Ave is a dead end, which presents some challenges. The recycling and refuse trucks have to back down Washington and Lincoln Ave, and then start their service backwards, driving out forward. So that's always going to be a problem. It's a problem for town plowing. The plows have to do the same thing in the winter. We already have, to describe the neighborhood, we have a cluster of single-family homes. We have on Nichols an entire row of duplexes. Those are all one-floor duplexes, by the way. And then we have some existing older colonial-type homes, which have been turned into apartment homes. Nonetheless, we still have a lot of parking on the streets already. That becomes a problem in the winter when there's a winter parking ban. So all of those cars end up going to the municipal lot. This is 20 units, 20 parking spots that we won't see, but we really know there'll be 40 cars because most homes, I don't know a home that doesn't have a car for each person in the home. So you're going to have 20 more vehicles you need to relocate. As I said, Washington and Lincoln are very narrow. They're 19 feet wide. There's no sidewalk. So Lincoln and Washington, they are pedestrian ways. People walk their dogs, people walk hand in hand. Children ride their bikes up and down on their scooters. On Nichols, they have the benefit of the sidewalk, but it's still very, very narrow. We've all adapted our behaviors to accommodate the large number of people out walking around in the middle of the street. Drainage. I'm glad you mentioned drainage because Washington Ave floods after every major storm. And it usually lasts an hour or two. But it floods all the way from the corner where it makes a 90-degree bend onto Lincoln, all the way out to Nichols. In the wintertime, if you have the right type of storm, it floods again, and then it freezes, and then you have a frozen skating rink. The road isn't graded to get rid of or mediate any of that. The idea that you're going to pull out onto Washington is scary. It's such a small road. I'm assuming you're going to build, maybe you're going to build a sidewalk around that. It's a beautiful building, by the way. It would look great out in the corridor district, which I would love to address in a few minutes. As much as I do want a new crosswalk, I think there's better ways to achieve that. Let me see here. So, to also further describe the neighborhood, we have a baseball field where kids are often seen coming and going, especially during the summertime. I took advantage of your master plan doc, and I didn't realize that tonight it was going to be on the agenda, but I did work through a few of the chapters just to kind of formulate my opinions on this. If I could, just a few items. The vision chapter talks about transportation and how Newmarket will be a vibrant community where development of multimodal transportation infrastructure are planned. Streets will be designed purposely for all modes of travel in accordance with their geographical context. The context of this area as it is right now is a small, quiet neighborhood. This building completely changes that. Further, existing and future land use chapter, we talk about vibrancy, and the community is one that exudes energy and is full of activity and life. Absolutely in this neighborhood, with all of the kids and people out walking around at all times. And part of the success, I'm pulling a quote from the PDF that I read earlier, part of the success is due to the amicable understanding of what a community needs and what their wants are. You can argue that we need affordable housing, but I'm sorry, that ship has sailed. Just drive up the hill and look at Mead Hill, where a one-bedroom apartment will run you $1,983. That's not affordable. In no way is that affordable. And with rooftop paddleboard and pickleball, it's going to be even less affordable. I think, and ironically, the developer of both is the Cheney Group. There's another chapter here, and I'm coming to the end of my comments. So I'm talking about resiliency, and the Newmarket hazard mitigation plan includes strategies such as replacement and upgrading of culverts and other stormwater management efforts. As I mentioned, this is a very flood-prone area. Paving all of it with a structure and/or supported sidewalks and driveways is not going to help that at all. Finally, we go to the future land use chapter, and I love the summary. Overall, the town is largely developed. Much of the undeveloped land is either more in a more rural area or constrained by natural resources. These are quotes, most of the potentially buildable land is located within a rural residential district, not within the village. And lastly, I'm not sure, I didn't see any reference to this, but are you still referring to the corridor district? Is that?
This is the village corridor district.
So that predominantly routes 108 and Route 152, is that correct? That's the definition that I read in a document dated 2024, 2025.
Parts of it.
Parts of it, okay.
It extends on the arterial streets.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. So the last section that I read from that, section 32-86, residential density, purpose of that chapter was to control residential density, recognizing that it's an important component in addressing many of the general purposes of the chapter, including lessening vehicle congestion in the streets, preventing overcrowding of land, and avoiding undue concentration of population, and in an effort to contribute to community character. I would suggest to you that nothing about this beautiful building achieves any of those goals. So I would ask for thoughtful consideration. Lincoln Ave.
Other comments? Please come forward. And again, we see your name and address. I hold it. You can take it out.
Take it out. Okay, thank you. I mean, so I see it's off.
No, it's all on. It's a microphone for the TV.
Oh, for the TV, okay, so I should speak loudly to everybody. Hello, everybody, neighbors and representatives, thank you. And people with ingenuity, thank you as well, appreciate it. I feel it's important to, I know, yes, my name is Jennifer Whitten. I live at 16 Nichols Avenue. And I feel it's important to know who is speaking and why they're speaking. So I will tell you that I love this street. I lived there in college. Now you'll know how old I am, in 1989 to 90. And then I lived there another 7 years later. And then during COVID, I went to Denver for 2 years. And when I came back, I was looking for a place. And I said, why can't there be a place like I used to live on Nichols Ave, and miraculously one opened up. So I live in one of the duplexes. So that's where I'm coming from. I think that this gentleman made a lot of good points. I have some others. One of them is thinking about the population density. Right now there are about 40 dwelling units on Nichols Ave, and this building will add 20 more. So that's 1.5 times as many. That's a considerable population growth. It is true that those streets are narrow. It's also true that we are often overwhelmed by parking. If there's a baseball game, if there's a party, if the lot over by the restaurants gets filled up. And so sometimes my own visitors could not park on our street, and it would not be safe for the emergency vehicles to come through. As one of my neighbors told me once, when I parked on the street and there were many other people, she said, no, don't park there because the fire trucks or the police will have trouble, or ambulances, which is true. Okay, so I appreciate that. It sounds like you're adhering to the 50 and 100 foot necessity along the streets. I'm concerned about many things, and one of them is visibility. As we turn out of this street, it's going to be impaired. There is no doubt about it. I also appreciate the reference to historical precedent, and I know that Newmarket is a place where there is a lot of change. You can read the little plaques. I love them. You know, this was moved to make way for a Methodist church, it will say. I would like to point out that at the time of the mill buildings, which I assume would be about 1910 when my building was built, there were not a lot of cars. There was not the same concern for safety. We have a new concern for safety. So adding to the population density, the car density, and impeded visibility will be problematic. I also understood that the original building that was proposed might have been about maybe 1,800 square feet, and I thought there was a request that there would be then 3 dwellings. I guess this is one dwelling meant to look like 3, meant to look more like 3 dwellings. What I love about Nichols Avenue is that it really is a community. I feel safer than anywhere else I've lived in my life. There are a lot of children. There is a lot of economic diversity, pardon me. There are people there who are retirees, people who have taken indispensable jobs here from other places. There are people who are low income and used to be homeless long ago, who now work jobs and are well employed and can afford to live there. There are people who own their homes. There are families. There are single people. There's everything. And we know each other. If I see a child riding not safely, I say something. It doesn't matter if it's my child or not. So this harkens back to a year, even like in the 70s, right? You don't get this today. And we have this. So I am really concerned about the tenor of the community. There are many spaces outside of Newmarket, outside of the downtown corridor, where there is land that could be developed. I knew this land had been purchased, but I had understood they were going to develop within the current property. I'm concerned about the addition of 25 parking spaces with cars. I'm concerned about the pollution. We talk about the stormwater, and I appreciate the efforts to address the stormwater, but we don't talk about the added air pollution, which, as we know right now, fires from Canada, and it impacts our air, but this will be close by to where I live. So I have just a couple questions, and I appreciate very much your listening. So I just made a few notes, which is kind of scritchy and scratchy. So one of my questions is, that if there are measurable negative impacts on public safety, is there an alternative plan that would have the same ingenuity and not as many dwellings, and could indeed be smaller houses that would maybe be fourplexes? That's just a thought. And would not impede the sight lines at the corners of Nichols and Elm, would not increase pedestrian vulnerability. And I'm wondering what other methods would be in place to safeguard us in case of emergencies, and the case, as the gentleman mentioned, of plows. I feel like this apartment building would not be consistent with the current tenor of the neighborhood. Again, it matches the downtown, it matches something that used to be there, but it doesn't match what is there today. And I think I just have one more question. Really grateful for your time. So, what happens when you don't type things out? Just break them down. It's a good opportunity for everyone to just leave. So, understanding that a company has bought this, they have bought this space with the idea of developing it. What can they do that's more fruitful and supports the neighborhood? Because right now, what this building does is it supports the people who will move in there, and the image of the people who move in there is people who have jobs that allow them to work from home, which is not low income usually. The image of the people who live in there is people who will want to gather on a rooftop as opposed to be out in the neighborhoods and know everybody. So we would not know them the same way that we know our neighbors now. The design is a beautiful concept. I just don't think it's for here. Thank you so much for listening.
Oh, you go ahead.
Let's make it a nice park.
Bill Mitchell, 2 Lincoln Ave. Thank you for the two.
Bill, you can pick it up.
Okay. Bill Mitchell, 2 Lincoln Ave. Moved here for about 6 years and have seen, even in that short amount of time, a lot of change and a lot of parking issues, the flooding, the UPS trucks, the FedEx trucks, the Amazon, construction vehicles, all vying for a almost single lane street to maneuver two-way traffic. It can get quite interesting. I did catch right at the very beginning concerns regarding, and it's been addressed by Andrew and a young lady who was just here, is 25 parking spaces, 1 space per bedroom. That's not going to happen. We know there's probably going to be 40 or 50 parking spaces needed for, when there's 2 people moving into 1 bedroom. In today's economic situation, that's what they're going to do to make it work financially. what are you gonna do? What's gonna happen there? They're gonna park in the street, they're gonna go in the public parking across in the strip mall area, Newberry's and all that? What's gonna happen? Right? There's no way 20 units is only gonna have 20 parking. It's gonna be a nightmare. And that goes on top of all the other great concerns that the last two speakers raised. I think it's very shy and inadequate about the parking issue, and that's gonna be a major headache for the police, for the pedestrians, the homeowners, the rental people in that whole area, and it's, that's gonna be devastating, okay? So those are the things that really jumped out at me. I am definitely for advancement and improvement for the community, but I think the vision of the whole landscape and the community and these kinds of things that have been raised by the last few of us need to be looked at more very carefully. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Richie Reeves. I live in 8 Lincoln Avenue. You probably see me as a familiar face as I'm the guy with the dog and his motorcycle. And I've been here since 2019. And when we first moved here with my wife, we realized how this place has a lot of heart, and it just resonates to me as I meet up with people, walk downtown. Even driving, you feel that. A couple months ago, over at the Lofts, there was like a change of policy, and it was people that came out of the area and did not understand how this town works. And they started posting private property, all that kind of stuff, and it terrified me because it's changing the attitude of this town. And I think that having a building like this will add to that attitude. You're going to have people move in and not realize that this is a good-hearted place that you could open your heart to. And this just opens the door for us to become another Portsmouth. Look at what Portsmouth was 20, 30 years ago. Look at it now. I ask anyone here whether they'd rather live here or in Portsmouth, and we all know the answer to that. And I mean, it's just seeing how this will stand out and open that door for Newmarket to not be Newmarket anymore is a very scary thought, and I think it should go, everyone should give it some thought. Thank you very much.
Sorry, can you speak up? No.
Yes, yeah, that's
No,
for the
that's
TV
not
as
a
well.
mic, that's just for the TV.
Oh,
No, I just need you to speak
Okay.
up.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm Mike Mangan. Hi, everybody. I own 10, 12 Nichols Ave. I've owned it since 2010. I live over at Shonda Park. So I guess a couple of questions. The first one has to do with I've seen variant, special exception, relief attached to this development. I'd like to hear about more specifically what specific variances, if it's possible, that you guys can speak to that, what specific variances, special exceptions, relief we're talking about here that would be required to make this project happen. And then the other question has to do with parking in general in that area, Lincoln, Washington, Nichols. I'm not sure if parking is legal at all on any of those streets. So I'd like to hear about that. Those are my two comments and questions.
Any other comments or questions?
Speak louder.
Just speak louder for the public.
Just to
So the
the.
microphone doesn't matter, that's just picking up your voice for the TV.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if I talk louder?
You just need to talk loud to the audience.
Well, a lot of the points have already been made. I know my neighbors, I know a good portion of these people, and I adore them.
Name and address, please.
Oh, sorry, my name is Andrea McCurry, Andy McCurry, and I'm at 13 and a half Nichols Ave, part of the pizza. Mark and I have been speaking regularly through emails, and he's been very informative and very helpful. Thank you. Nice to meet you in person. A lot of the points have already been made as far as parking and stuff. The fact that it's a community, I'm coming to, I know that I work for a builder, so I understand development, but the park itself is gorgeous. I got a tree shirt on. I don't know if you guys have all seen this park. It's the most beautiful trees. I have my favorite book, The Giving Tree. My favorite tree. I just feel like there's a more sensible way to do this. I understand that it's going to be developed, and I just feel like there's a better way to make our community be okay with it. It's just, this is too much. It'd be beautiful, like it's mentioned somewhere else. But it's just, it's a lot. There's so much going on. The parking, like, if it spills over in that municipal law, I work for the property management company. They're in the works of putting in a parking police, so it's gonna backfire eventually. A lot of people are getting away with parking in there, and that's gonna change. So that's gonna be an issue. The roads are super narrow. I never commented, if people start parking along there, all the emergency vehicles and can't get through. It's just not a good fit for this area. I know it has to be developed. I can cry about the trees. There's 16 to 20 of them, those gorgeous trees. If you don't drive by, you should. They're pretty awesome. I just come before you to have them rethink this design. I feel like we can meet in the middle somewhere to do something that ties all in together, and it will be more fitting for the community. Thank you.
Anyone else from the public?
Hi, my name is Alyssa Chase. I live at 10 Nichols Ave, which is actually owned by Mike, who spoke earlier. I don't want to be super redundant, though I do agree with basically everyone who has come up and spoken. I come from the Portsmouth area. I have lived in Newmarket for only a few years now. I have been at 10 Nichols for 1 year now, actually almost exactly a year. And as soon as I moved into Nichols Ave, the very first day, everyone that walked by in that neighborhood came up to me, introduced themselves, and I immediately knew that I was in a very safe, a very welcoming community that you do not find these days. Coming from the Portsmouth area and seeing my whole life how it has changed, which I know it's not as much as other people may have seen it, but even in just my time, it has grown so much where it's not what it used to be. It is not the same community. And seeing the proposal for this building, it looks like Portsmouth, and that makes me sick to my stomach. So it's just, I'm all for preserving what the community is right now, and I do think that this would have a very negative impact on it, just because of how it is. I also did just want to mention that I used to live on Spring Street in an apartment that was 3-bedroom, and 1 parking spot was allotted per unit in that building, and that is a nightmare. I had to park at the lot that is, the one that's right near where we're all talking about. Which is not necessarily public parking, because I got in trouble a lot of times for having to park there. So it's just, there's nowhere else for people to go parking wise in Newmarket if they're going to be living here. So that's kind of all of it. So.
My name is John Carmichael from Elm Street, and one question, you said you're taking away the bus stop and putting a bench down, is that correct?
Yes.
Will the bench be enclosed? Will it be covered?
It will be covered.
It will be covered?
Yes.
Because anybody who goes down Elm Street onto that intersection with the kids coming in for school in the morning, inclement weather, they're all huddled.
Press the word please, thank you.
They're all huddled inside that little cubicle to get out of the elements in the wintertime and during the rain. Next thing I only want to mention is that, don't mention the Elm Block again, please. It doesn't do you any good. I mean, even the mill stopped renting that out. It's called Slaughterhouse because of the murder of the Savage. Okay. For the planning board to remember, whatever the final approval it goes through is, that Nichols Avenue has been on the National Historic District since 1980, because it is one of the last surviving areas of microplasm, if you will, microcosm of mill housing that is unique under the Waltham District, under the system of development. It would be a shame for that approach to Nichols Avenue and those houses that are on Washington and Lincoln to be obscured by something so new, modern, and doesn't really fit into the area. I won't repeat all the other things about parking. I've seen it crush right up the hill. Okay, thank you very much.
Donald Pelletier, Elm Street. My only question would be, if you were to approve or adopt the new town master plan, would this project be approved as is? Because I don't know what's going to come first, the new master plan or this project. So if the new master plan is in place, would this project be approved as is? That would be my question.
Just to clarify the difference, the master plan sets kind of a vision for adoption of zoning ordinances. Any application that comes before us is under the current zoning ordinance.
And the zoning ordinance wouldn't be affected by the master
Master
plan?
plan would not change current zoning ordinance.
Correct.
But other issues in the master plan would be. You got a vote.
Just to clarify.
11 items on here. Would any of those affect this project?
Any projects that come, any applications that come before the planning board fall under the current zoning. So when an application comes in, they're subject to the current zoning, not any potential future zoning. So it's whatever the current zoning is at that point in time. That's, the master plan drives zoning amendments, but any applications that come before us fall under the current zoning, which is what they're here before us this evening. Is that?
Hi. Just one more question.
Is there anyone else though who wants to speak?
Oh,
Go ahead and speak.
Give everyone a chance, please.
Hi, I'm Brad Ritchie. I'm at 8 Washington Street. And not to reiterate everything, all the great comments, I support them. I agree with a lot of what's been said. I just wanted to add that I think it's really important to carefully consider changes that are made, because just like the comments about what's happened in Portsmouth, when you bring in a building like this, it's substantially changes the neighborhood and the look and the feel. And once it's there, every future proposal is going to take that into consideration. That's how you kind of go in a direction where you get, you end up with a completely different landscape, and the neighborhood is no longer what you intended to preserve. And also, I've been here since 2008, so before the Lincoln Street houses were there were similar proposals, maybe not this big, but those were considered, and ultimately, we now have nice houses that, you know, they're great. They resemble the existing neighborhood. They fit in. They're not big multi-unit dwellings that were originally proposed. And so I think that, I mean, that's just basically my comment, is that we really need to carefully consider major changes like this. Thank you.
Anyone else who hasn't spoken yet?
Bob Daigle, 43 Elm Street. This is a nice plan, it's a nice want. What do you need? Can we squish it down, make it more appealing? I know you've got a price point in mind someplace, but can you reduce the scope, maybe spread it out a little longer? Instead of having 20 units, can we go with 15 and make the dollars work?
Anyone else who hasn't spoken, please come up.
Go for it, Brian.
Close about. 15 units doesn't make any sense either. Sorry, Bob. Bob's my next door neighbor. Neighbors fight. We don't fight at all, though. I just disagree. I respectfully disagree with Mr. Daigle. Brian McHale, 41 Elm Street, Newmarket, New Hampshire, since 1984. And then shortly thereafter, bought property, owner of Unit C at Rivermore Landing condominiums. Interestingly, we were second purchasers of property over there at Rivermore Landing. And all I can say is environmental impact study. You gotta have one. I mean, when I was the president of the Rivermore Landing Unit Owners Association, we had to pump out the basement, okay? So we're figuring out, what do we do to pump out the basement? Well, it was me, Ron, you, Lou Gargiulo, and we put our heads together and said, look, I guess we gotta pump out the basement, because the basement at Rivermore Landing is a nightmare. If you've ever been down there, you've seen it, I've seen it, I've been down there, crawled through it, and if you go pumping sewage water effectively at the bottom of Rivermore Landing out into the river, you got a problem. Okay, we would have been sued by 19 different people. We did some activities at Rivermore Landing, and I can tell you, if you don't have good liability insurance and insurance for whoever's running the apartment complex, I can tell you, as president of the Rivermore Landing Unit Owners Association, I got threatened with lawsuits by pretty much everybody who was an owner at the time, and it was about 6 owners, only 6 owners at the time. So we ended up pumping out the basement of Rivermore Landing. It was interesting. That gets me to my really first point, the sewage system. Bob and I recently spent many thousands of dollars because of the traffic that goes up Elm Street presently. We were part of the shutdown of Elm Street that happened a few weeks ago as a result of basically the sewage infrastructure going out to the main sewer line that these guys say they're going to connect to was dilapidated, to say the least. Pipes were crushed. We had backup. My other neighbor was here a little while ago. He left already. But basically, it cost me about $10,000 to hook up to that sewer line that these guys, that's the one house, that these guys are gonna hook 20 units into. Hard to believe. And everybody else on Elm Street that didn't pay to have the clay pipes replaced with PVC pipes is gonna have a problem with the traffic. That gets me to my third point. The traffic on Elm Street is already pretty bad. If you leave for work in the morning, I know these guys have an ideal that everybody's gonna stay home and work from home. Well, guess what? That doesn't really happen in 2026. You go into the office because your employer is paying a lot of money for that leased space somewhere, Boston, Durham, Portsmouth, wherever. So people go to work, and 20 units leaving at about 8 o'clock to go down Elm Street to take a right-hand turn onto the main street and go through Newmarket is going to be a problem. So guess what they're going to do? They're going to go down Spring Street. So all these folks who live at Spring Street are going to have a traffic impact that needs to be studied. You really need to look at that. I think a traffic study needs to be done. I think a study needs to be done with respect to environmental impact, and I think the study needs to be done with respect to the sewer system. Gonna cost engineering dollars, but I think they need to spend the money. They obviously have lots of money to spend.
Anyone else who hasn't spoken, and I'll open it up to people who have already spoken that may have additional comments. Okay. Any other additional comments?
I just have a question. Again, Andrea McCurry, 13 Mount Nicholas, been there 15 years. It was my understanding that there's a White House is going to be demolished along with all the trees that's coming down as well. But it's my understanding, like in the beginning, I thought there was a gentleman actually that worked for Cheney that was staying there and was fixing up apartments. I guess I don't know if you guys have any insight as to why that changed. So I thought, okay, that's great, turn into apartments, maybe add a few more, not a huge impact. It just seemed, so I don't think there's anyone from Cheney here that can answer that.
Yeah,
Not
applicable to
yeah,
the
you guys don't
why
know
they're
why.
here.
Okay.
People want to get more money.
Okay, I know, sorry, thank you, thanks for your time.
I have one question from my seat. Okay, I should come up. I will. I just wanted to reiterate the question that a gentleman asked earlier about understanding what the variances requested were. Will you be able to tell us about those? Jennifer Whitney, 16 Nichols, thanks.
Okay, everyone has had an opportunity? You should know the comments. Just want to close the public comments session of the hearing. All right, that would be a good starting point. If you could just review as to what the applicant, the milestone the applicant would need relative to the current zoning, which would require any potential variances or special exception reliefs.
So the applicant's seeking, as of right now, just give me a quick clarification, is it rentals at this point? Okay, so it's gonna be a major site plan review with a special use permit. So the special use permits, a couple of them, I'll go into more detail in a second. That's under the purview of the planning board. So as of right now, no variance from the ZBA is needed.
Thank you.
Well, so the special use permit, there's potentially 3 at the moment, based on current design. One of them is, this kind of answers the question about Elm Street and Nichols and the width of the building. Right now on Elm Street, you need 50 feet, the maximum is 50 feet building width. And then any other streets, 100 feet. Along Nichols, that's going to be, I think, around 142, the width. And then on Elm Street, it's going to be a little longer as well, I think. I'd have to double check that. So they are varying from that. So that would require a special use permit from the planning board to get approval, and there's criteria under that. I can go to that in detail later. But the second thing they're seeking is, since they're proposing more than 16 units, they need another special use permit, and there's standards and criteria that they need to meet for that. And then, in addition to that, they are proposing 1 building, essentially, and the zoning allows for 8 units per building. But again, under the special use permit, the planning board can modify that based on criteria. So, this zoning, the purpose of it is, again, when the planning board and town council ultimately ratified it, was to have certain building types for this area. We went through a very extensive process to understand what existing buildings are there and then what the community would be comfortable with. So, but the reason why for this relief mechanism is that if there's a good idea, we shouldn't stifle creativity or ingenuity and go through an onerous process. So these relief mechanisms was completely given to the planning board and they have to follow certain criteria when they're reviewing the special use permit. So those are the two special use permits based on current design that the applicant will need to submit along with their site plan review. And I do want to talk about process too, because I think that's important. After this, given this is a major site plan review, this will have to go to the technical review committee before it goes to the planning board, and that's open to the public. Abutters aren't technically noticed, but we make a good effort to make sure that this is well known. So the abutters can observe, or people can observe, but it's not interactive like this. The process there is to go through all the technical aspects of a major site plan and try to solve issues at that point, and before it goes to the plan board. The technical review committee will submit a letter to the applicant, which they have to provide in their application to the plan board. And at that point, abutters will be noticed when they file for official review. And that's the point where the planning board would accept the application and go through that review process. So there's multiple steps from now to the final decision. So that's where we stand right now. Part of the site plan regs requires some study, some additional review. This will be peer reviewed by town's engineers, consultant engineers, so it's going to go through an extensive process, a review process. But right now, this is a opportunity for the board to work with the applicant and community, come together for the applicant to give a design concept and have the board comment on it and give direction. And then from here, they'll go to refine their design and again move on to technical review. That's kind of the process, current relief that they would need through the special use permit, and then the original approval too, which is the major site plan review. So that's kind of a synopsis of where we are.
Just for clarification, the issue of a variance versus the planning board's ability to grant the special use permit. So under the current zoning ordinance, the maximum density per unit, of units per building is 8 in this village border district. So typically, an applicant, if they're looking to do more than 8 units per building, would have to go to the zoning board to get a variance from that. The planning board, as the ordinance is written, permits under, if the applicant meets the criteria of the special use permit, the planning board has the ability to grant that if it meets certain conditions as part of this mentioned. And one of those is the building types. So this particular building types as proposed is obviously not permitted under the existing zoning because it's more than 8 units, so they would need the special use permit. I think we want to clarify that's an administrative decision. The planning board can modify the density per building because we have the ability to modify the building type. So that's kind of why they're here, and we'll be going to get a variance from the zoning board. They go to the zoning board and they meet their criteria to obtain a variance, then the planning board would have no authority to change the density. So this was a big reason why the zoning was written this way. And does anyone on the board dispute, our, position on that? This is that they don't need to go get a variance for density if they meet the criteria for special use to change the building type. So I just want to make sure that we're clear on that. Okay, so part is, we're it's kind of getting late. Is that we should keep on?
Yeah, we do.
Are you board good with that? And again, apologize for the situation here with the
Could you speak up, please?
Or maybe we can open the door.
Well, I guess still it's not what we're going to do. Let me get a chair.
Obviously, for the benefit of everyone here and the applicant has the team here. I'm gonna move this along. Yes. Is it to like answer a question or just provide
I
us
just
with
want to clarify for the public.
sure.
Eric Weinberg, Altus Engineering, civil engineer with Patrick on this project. And I used to live in town, and I do live in Portsmouth, mainly, both communities. I just want to take off the discussion about parking tonight. And if you have an issue with parking, I think you need to talk to your local legislator and the governor. Because recently, the state RSA has required that these people, the town, cannot require more than one space per dwelling unit. And so, we're providing more than the state requirement, and they can't ask us to provide more parking than that. So there's a lot of discussion tonight about parking, and I just want everyone to understand that that needs to come off the table right now. Thank you.
That was going to be a comment. Our hands are tied with two things. Our current zoning in this district, you are here?
It's pretty close.
Right. The current zoning for the village border district central district, requires no parking. And Mr. Weinberg is correct in that the state legislature, the community cannot mandate any more than one parking unit per unit, one parking space per unit. That's the state law. So this board cannot require a mandate to provide parking in the district. So I just wanted to make that clear. Okay. Your comments are well founded and will be taken into consideration. But I think that there's a lot of comments about parking. That is the situation relative. So the applicant, as far as what they're providing for parking spaces, it's part of the whole application, but it's not a requirement of our current zoning, which we're here under. Is it a parking question?
Yeah, it's a parking question.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll have parking.
So, my question, along with variance, special exceptions, and so forth, is parking legal on Nichols, Washington, and Lincoln? Is it legal to park on those streets?
That would be a question, I think, for the town.
I have to look at the parking ordinance.
Okay, because I did, and
I know the answer.
So, let's deal with, okay, so I think the applicant is here to really kind of get an understanding of the likelihood of this board, what we would be looking for relative to this application, whether or not they continue to move forward with putting this proposal, I should say, not application, whether or not they should move forward with this particular design concept to the technical review committee, because Part had explained what the process is. So in order to do that, they kind of need the input of how likely is this board going to grant any kind of relief for special exceptions. And that's why they're here tonight, to get input as to questions that we might have, concerns about the particular development, relative to the applicant being able to move forward with the likelihood of, once the application goes to TRC, it comes to the board and we completely deny it because we don't agree with granting the special exception, special use permit. So in light of that, I think Art, if you could lead the discussion as to where, because there's really two sections, right? That you could go through the criteria and at least give the applicant feedback from the members as to, you know, really what our thoughts are.
So the first one is section 32-45C2, and this is the first area where relief would be needed. And B of this section says, no building or assembly of buildings shall exceed 100 feet in length parallel to the street, except between Elm Street and Jerry Ave, where the maximum length shall be 50. So discussion should start there. The applicant is proposing along Elm Street. It appears to be, and correct me if I'm wrong, applicant's team, be around 105 feet. Is that correct?
Elm Street?
On Elm Street, or is it
Yep.
73?
73.
73 feet.
Sorry, let me just give you.
73 and a half?
73 feet, 2 inches.
2 inches. Okay. And then along Nichols Ave, it's proposed to be 142 feet.
And 3 inches.
And 3 inches. And along Washington Street, it's 69 feet and a quarter inch.
Yes, which does not require relief.
Correct. So the relief would be along Nichols. No. There. So the other, so that's one. Let me just go back to the notes. So where this relief mechanism exists is under 32-45C3. It says the planning board may modify road, side, and rear setback, structure height, and building type standards to a special use permit by finding the following. A, the proposed use is suitable for the location and would not cause measurable adverse impacts to the environment and public safety. B, the proposed building type is consistent with the building types permitted in the zoning district. And C, the proposed setback and structure height is consistent with either the setbacks, structure height, or both of existing buildings located on adjacent lots. So again, the building types that's permitted is 8 units per building. There's a few building types that are allowed there, and they have their own dimensions. This application is proposing a modified building type, which will require this relief mechanism through a special use permit. And then the second special use permit is under 32-45F2, and this is required when more than 16 units are proposed on the lot. And this is, I'll just read the criteria for everyone. The following use may be permitted by special use permit by the planning board. Multifamily residential or mixed-use developments proposing greater than 16 residential units. And B1, granting of the special use permit shall require the planning board to find that the proposed development is consistent with the purpose of the district, is suitable for the location proposed, will not cause significant adverse impact, and meets the conditions as set forth below. A, the development shall be designed in a manner that has a common social or open space as the focal point. It shall be demonstrated to the planning board how the residents of the development will frequently engage in these spaces for social, recreational, and commercial activities, or a combination thereof. B, townhouse developments may have no more than 6 attached units without a break of at least 15 feet. Developments of more than 12 townhouse units shall be constructed with at least 2 distinct facades. So in this case, not applicable. And E, fiscal impact and market analysis study from a qualifying professional shall be required, demonstrating that the multifamily residential or mixed-use project with a cumulative addition of 16 or more dwelling units will not have a negative fiscal impact on the town and its housing market. So again, they would have to demonstrate that to the planning board.
Can I ask a question about
Not at this point.
townhouses versus apartments?
That will help. close the public comments section for now. Okay, so those are the three items within the ordinance.
Yep. So this is for the special use permit,
Yeah.
really.
And there's no other requests, everything else is under technical review.
Yep.
Okay, so let's do low-lying fruit, just to go through some of these. Under 3245F2, it's not a townhouse development where it's being proposed, so therefore that would be not applicable. Would the rest of the board agree?
Yep.
Okay. The fiscal impact and market analysis study that would be required, does anyone have a concern that, it may not be so much of the board's concern, because that would be up to the applicant, of whether or not it, that would be under their risk, as to providing that analysis.
Can I do a point of clarification?
Yeah.
If the applicant doesn't want to provide that, they would have to get a variance.
Yes, for any of these.
Just to clarify, the fiscal impact and market analysis study will be completed. We're waiting to hit that step till after this meeting. Just don't want to.
No, I understand, you'd be taking the risk of that.
Yeah. We have spoken with our consultant. He has not thrown us any red flags. Mark Fromer?
Yes.
Mark Fromer.
Mark, you have a comment?
No, that was my comment.
Yeah.
They didn't want to provide it.
Yeah, that's their risk. Let's go to C. The development shall be designed in a manner that has the common, social, or open space as its focal point. It shall be demonstrated to the planning board how the residents of the development will frequently engage in these spaces for social, recreational, commercial activities, or a combination thereof. Would the applicant like to speak further to that?
For that item specifically, I just want to reiterate a couple of the features that we're incorporating into this, such as the community rooftop deck at the top of the building, the public built-in bench at the corner of Nick and Elm Street, the landscaping area that will be designed during the TRC process around all three street fronts, as well as our shared office space to encourage that social interaction during the workday for working, home working individuals, as well as that shared lounge within it. And specifically to the commercial activities, we're in direct walking distance to downtown. So that's our direct commercial activity interaction. 2 minutes to Main Street, 4 minutes to downtown, really starting to hit on the walkability of the neighborhood.
Do any of the members of the board have thoughts on that and whether or not they think the proposal would be? Again, this is all non-binding.
Yeah, so I guess the intent of that is focused on the people of that residence that's added, right? So it's, it says open, social or open spaces is what it's, but that's specifically within the context of that development.
Yeah, residents of the development, that's this particular criteria. Does anyone have any comments for the applicant, whether or not you have a concern about them being able to meet that with the proposed application, or proposed concept? Next, because it's greater than 16 units, granting of the special use permit, finding that the proposed development is consistent with the purpose of the district. So let's go through each one of those. So purpose, Art, will you read that one?
So, Village Core District, purpose, 32-45. The town of this district shall be continue the traditional Main Street development pattern as properties are developed and redeveloped along 108 and 152 located in close proximity of the village center. That's the purpose.
Comments from the board on meeting the purpose of the district. Do they feel like they would meet the purpose or it would meet the purpose?
Yeah, I think the challenge with this is that it's right on the boundary between those two zoning districts. So I think this, as I understand it, you guys have really kind of modeled off of the Main Street part of that, the one-way part of that, pulled from the mill building and that styling. You're talking about kind of like it as a gateway into that, but I think through everything tonight, it's also the inverse of that, it being a gateway into that neighborhood. I think it doesn't, I know you on the back end, you show the facade that kind of blends into that, but from Elm Street, it looks like you're entering into the Mill District area, vice entering into Nichols, so I think there's some, although I think there's, in that village corridor, I think there, at least in the height lines, it seems like you've tried to blend to the district it's in. I think it's the challenge is suitable to that location proposes that boundary area. I think there's some contention there of how to meet that transition zone that the property naturally falls on. Kind of because it's right there, I think that's the thing I'm kind of struggling with, of how to blend those from the perspective of entering the Nichols Avenue versus the Main Street perspective.
Okay. And I mean, just to respond to that particular question, when we're adding this facade modulation of pushing and pulling these facades and completely changing the look of the building at these moments, is in direct response to that particular element of trying to break this building up and set it down into that neighborhood. And in the back there, the mansard roof, if you dropped a property line right here, both of these buildings would meet that particular constraint of less than 100-foot building build out, or lot build out, I apologize, because you're also allowed a 0 lot line setback in this district. So in that particular instance, we're still being cognizant of stepping this down and really trying to make sure that we're consolidating, moving this building towards more of the center of the building or the lot, and stepping down towards this residential neighborhood, because, as I mentioned earlier, this particular zone has been identified as for future development, just page north of our property and true north of our property. So as your master plan, or as you noted, your master plan guides that zoning ordinance, we don't necessarily know where that is becoming or what that's going to become, which is also why we're trying to abide by that height restriction of the nearby zoning, not just our zone, which is 50 feet as opposed to 35.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely, to me, it does show that you're trying to blend those two from that, at least from the height standpoint, at least from the styling, but you're still getting a special use permit for the sizing of it. So I know that you're trying to fit within the kind of purpose of the district, but you're exceeding what we intended as kind of the maximum for that. If we were, we went a lot of back and forth on those, the size of units allowed, all these things for kind of these reasons of making sure you don't just have something that kind of like blows up from the neighboring areas to try to blend into that. So I think that's the part of, yes, there's I definitely see the intent to marry those and to match within that sense, but in terms of like just the overall dimensioning, I think the fact that it's going from 20 vice the current max of 8, or even the special use of 16, you're kind of driving a lot of these other criteria that you have to get the special use permit on, the sizing, right, the length of the property, all that's kind of being driven from that unit size.
Which I understand.
Let's clarify this. Could you bring up the site plan, please? And does the site plan have the overlay of the building?
Yes.
If you were to subdivide the lot, how many lots would you subdivide into to act with 0 lot lines, because that's 0 setbacks on lot lines for buildings?
So
how many lots would you subdivide this into to actually create the identical building? And at that point, would you need a special exception for anything?
So we could subdivide this into 3 lots to make that work.
And build this building?
It would be a funky lot line and firewall scenario, but yes.
And the firewall scenario would also
It would
modify
fall.
the construction of the building, or you were taking that into account, or could take that into account?
That is not taken into account here.
Sorry, finish it up, sorry.
It is not taken into account here because the challenge with that, for us to be able to bring parking onto this property, which is our intention, the owners made that very clear. We wouldn't really be able to have openings in these firewalls, so we would need 3 openings on the street for driveways, overhead doors to get into the building to provide into all 3 individual buildings, which would be more curb cuts, more impact to the neighboring pedestrian interface, and it would also probably end up being a reduction in parking spaces as well, because you need to add all of the maneuvering clearances for a vehicle.
And then the actual footprint would expand,
It wouldn't need to.
so you would just basically carve up the lot into 3 lots.
Yeah.
But you have 3 different access
Yeah, and
points.
just saying, this is all hypothetical.
No, I understand, I'm just trying to say, under the current zoning, can this same building be done through a subdivision? Or what additional, would any special exception be needed?
There'd still be one building because they share parking underneath. So
Well,
they build this building, you subdivide it.
So they wouldn't share parking in this scenario when we add the firewalls, because they'd be tied to each individual lot.
So it'd be a separating wall at the parking level.
Yep, and what a firewall is from ground to roof, and that's your demising wall between lot and lot. That's very common if you look on, actually, can you show up the aerial?
Because in the 3 buildings would be a maximum of 24 units.
So, for example, these 3 buildings right here, all touch one another along the lot lines at a 0 lot line. Those are firewalls separating those buildings.
Where's that location?
This is,
Oh, the Durham.
Eric Wonder again. So it would also be 3 sets of stairwells, 3 elevators, and so what would happen in addition, instead of it being more affordable, there's going to be a lot more infrastructure costs that would rise up the cost of the units, and so it wouldn't be as affordable. And you would have a curb cut on each one of the streets. Instead, we have 1 curb cut on Elm coming in, and then 1 on Washington River. So it would be much more disruptive, in my opinion, to the neighborhood.
It still requires special use permit because cumulative would be 24, you still have to do the 16 unit. So it would still go through that process, and depending on the building type as well.
so I guess my question to you, Bart, is, I mean, technically, if they subdivided this into 3 separate lots and then built one, and then built the other after, and then built
There's
the
no
other
time,
after.
there's no time when you subdivide it, and you would have to go through that subdivision process, what's your intent, to go through that process. So if there was, it would still need, you would have to propose what you're gonna do for the future. It says you can't circumnavigate it.
Okay, so then if that's the case, we would still be reducing our relief request to just the 20+.
Building tax, yeah, so you would match the building tax, but you're still doing the special use permit for the 16 units.
Yeah, there's the 16.
Yeah, right, and then it has that criteria.
That was one of the questions of a proposal to present it that way, to try to circumvent the ability for the special use permit. They wouldn't be able to circumvent
With this particular.
with this building.
Yeah, and previously in February, we proposed the 2 options. The second option did everything by the book besides the 4th story, which was the deciding factor for us.
For moving forward in this direction versus just lowering that 4-story building, which is the other option. And that still creates enough curb cuts.
It creates 2 curb cuts, but they're wider than what we're proposing here because it needs to be two-way. Correct.
Yep, no,
I was just gonna say, with the 3-building scenario, you would not need relief on the width and length, right? As well as not building type. But you would still need a special permits for the density.
Yeah, for the +6.
so it's the assembly of buildings. If they're exceeding on the assembly of buildings.
Yes, yeah, so
I still think they'd have to subdivide.
it'll be a subdivision,
So,
yeah.
Yeah,
so the-
no building,
the
assembly of
length and width would
buildings
still
will
be-
exceed the 100 feet parallel.
Okay,
Okay,
okay.
so that would still comply. It still would need a special exception to that.
But I mean, you had a 3-building scenario back in February, right?
Correct, and based on what we took from the board, the feedback that we took from the board in that particular application, it felt to us that this option was approvable and able to move forward.
Yeah, although we weren't all that clear. Because I think it was a little bit of.
I think the height seemed to be the kind of stickiest point for us, is the, it seemed to be where we kind of gravitated around. So overall height.
Yeah, I think if you look back in the minutes, it was the,
It was the height
I think
regarding
it
option
was
3.
the,
It was the height regarding
You're right,
option
you're
3
right.
that was the problem.
the height, there was the massive.
Yeah.
Yes, because there was also, I believe, more impervious than what we're proposing now. Because of all the asphalt we needed for turning space and turning radiuses to get to all the separate garages.
Zach, I didn't mean to cut you off, you finished on that particular, purpose of the ordinance? Needing it or-
Yeah, I think it's kind of to me, it's the sizing that's driving so much of the other special use permits. And it's just trying to square, I know we put that in there for the reason, because, we can't predict everything, and like Bart said, we're trying to preserve ingenuity or anything that comes up. And so I do, I feel like there's definitely some engineering effort put into all of this, so I don't want to dismiss what you guys have worked on in that sense. I'm just trying to square all that of 8 being the largest we kind of envisioned for that. I know there are other sizes that we have in the existing set of designs that don't necessarily, they're not approved for that, but are approved in Newmarket in general. One that's up to 16 units, that courtyard style, and so I think that's what I'm trying to I'm struggling with trying to marry it into the Nichols neighborhood. Coming from the village quarter, like the Main Street, I think I see how that matches all that. I'm just struggling to drive it from the other direction.
They still need a special use permit because it's over 8. You still need to.
Yeah, the building type would match, but if you were, it's the 16 part that's kicking into the extra significant adverse impact.
Yes.
It's a higher
Yeah.
standard, essentially, that has to be met for that bar.
Yep, understood, and just
Yeah,
to reiterate one element that I mentioned earlier, this lot is 17,000 square feet, which is over 5 times the lot minimum size in this district. So, just to hypothetically speak again, this can be subdivided into 5 lots by right, and then put, per your building typologies, 8 units per lot with no parking. This lot at this size does lend itself to produce a building of this size.
Do you think it's feasible, if you did your 5-lot subdivision, to be able to create 8 units in each building without any?
40 would be a stretch.
And all the access and egress to get to those buildings would take up some space. wouldn't it?
Yeah, it's just hypothetical.
Yeah, like I said, this
I know
is
it's
just
hypothetical.
hypothetical. In theory, you can design a building of that nature with just one stair and make it work. So you wouldn't need
I meant
an elevator.
vehicle access.
Nope, you would provide no parking in that scenario.
Art?
I think we need to circle back to the intent of that special use permit over 16. I think the most critical one is how you, a design approach. The focal point of the design, the pros and cons, let's see if we can find it. Okay, the focal point is you're building from this, you're starting with this premise. The development shall be designed in a manner that has the common social or open space as its focal point. It shall be demonstrated to the board how the residents of the development will frequently engage in these spaces. So if you were trying to max it out like that, how are you gonna create that?
Well, I don't think the board had a problem with that.
I don't know, I'm just saying for that hypothetical.
So,
if you did that
well, in that
subdivision.
hypothetical, they could subdivide into 8 lots and then sell the other, 5 lots.
Yeah,
And
this
then
wouldn't
sell the
apply.
other 4, and then they can, and then those other owners can develop that.
Right. If
In
they
that
did on
manner.
subdivision, did 5 8-unit buildings, then I think the only one that applies here is 3245C3. Then it's really going to be, the proposed building type is consistent, because it actually worked within this, will they need C3?
Yeah, I mean, anything over 8.
You know, because we're still gonna vary, if they're looking for anything that is a setback or structure height, because if they'd be doing a building, type that's permitted, is that actually feasible? And is it the best thing for the neighborhood to have 5 new buildings with 8 units in each building? You're gonna have the same traffic, but you're probably gonna have more vehicles, and I don't know how they would do the parking on the site.
Well, we wouldn't provide the parking on site in that scenario.
Sure, we built that's, I mean, we're all speaking hypothetically,
Yep.
so.
Yep. It's really just to put the scale of what we're really proposing into
Context.
with what is a hypothetical that it might take years to do, but it's just to put this modest unit count building into perspective.
Yeah, I mean, when we went back and forth on the center corridors, I mean, some of that was driven by, there's very different lots dimension-wise in that corridor that we had to marry all together. So some of these, I know hypothetically, yeah, you could max it out and do 50 subdivided, but that's not that every lot was intended to become that. It was more of like bringing some things into conformance and trying to marry all of those. So those setbacks are not always, those not like the intent of just everything turns into 50 square foot, 50 lot line frontages per se. So, no, and again, I understand it's marrying with, like I said, a lot of elements of that being next to the commercial. So I think in that sense, it meets that kind of the purpose of the district, right? The location, proximity, density for stuff like along the main street. It's the kind of suitable to the location proposed and significant adverse impacts. I think those are the elements that I will want to see traffic studies. I want to see like those impacts, how those are mitigated, and if there's any efforts that can be made to kind of help address location, which is adjacent to that Nichols neighborhood. That I know you guys aren't technically building in that district, but you're kind of bringing on those challenges with that district being right there on that boundary line. So I know like something that comes to mind is, I don't remember in what context it was, but wasn't there something about like finding parking that wasn't on your lot, but you could get some kind of agreement as part of the plan, stuff like that? That maybe you could,
It's part of the zoning, but then state law.
Or the paying for fund or.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I know. So anything else on 3245 F2?
No.
That particular element, right? We're talking about B.
Yeah, I was talking about
Yeah.
3245 F2 B1.
Jane, any comments or questions for the applicant? Or whether or not you think that this particular design concept would be able to meet?
I'm struggling with the design. I'm struggling with the concept that the government, the state government would say about parking. I'm struggling with the entire thing.
different that you would want the applicant to think about relative to the redevelopment site?
I would see too that I think the design doesn't fit the environment. I would ask for some work on that. For someone who goes up and down Elm Street every day from 6:30 to 6:45 in the morning and comes down it at 5 o'clock, then I spent 2 hours sitting on the wall today and I watched the amount of traffic. I'm concerned. I wanted to come prepared to this meeting because of the residents. So I'm very concerned.
I would add to that, I mean, if we're talking about density, B1. Parking has been a concern right from the beginning. And this is a real difficult area, as everybody said, and I've known that for a while. And you guys have been great at the design and, you know, providing the parking that you can provide. But I'm struggling with supporting more than 16 units, because it's gonna cause off-site parking needs.
Bill, what's your position on them building this building and having 0 parking? Which is permitted in the ordinance.
Well, it's gonna be determined who would rent that, if there's no parking.
Exactly.
I mean, how could you come and try to rent that without no parking?
Yeah, that could impact their market analysis.
With the commercial demands down there, you know, with parking, the limited space, the parking that's already exists, it is a tough area. And I just don't know where people would go.
So it's a density issue then?
I don't know how it would not be an adverse impact, and that's part of the criteria. I just, the building or one building, I think they've done a great job with what they can do. I appreciate you coming to design review. I know this is a lot of work.
So if it was a 16-unit building with underground parking as proposed?
I would get behind it.
Yeah.
I was trying to comment.
Yeah, I just have a more.
I just want to understand, I just want to make sure the applicant was clear with the buildings. That wasn't a comment, but for the
No, I had just said nothing that came to mind.
Yeah, I mean, I know people in town that rent without parking spots for apartments, and it's very inconvenient, but people do it. There's definitely a market for it. And I think splitting it into multiple buildings would be far less ideal than coming up with a design that has it more contained. And the worry is about flooding and the traffic around it. I lived on Nichols for 5 years. The end of the road, like coming on to Elm, if someone isn't right up on the curb when they're waiting to pull out, people have to wait to let them out. You can't. It's a pretty inconvenient spot, so something to consider. I don't know. Just my thought as we were talking about those roads. The design itself, I think it's a good-looking building. It'd be nice if something does end up there and has a lot of housing. I hope it has parking. So I appreciate your effort to bring the spaces that aren't required into the bottom floor there.
I just had kind of back to so I think to help kind of be a little bit more specific, I think on ways that could potentially relieve some of the concerns with impacts. So one of the concerns was sidewalk. So I believe on one of your, I think it was C1, there's no sidewalk along Nichols. I think continuing that, for example, or some kind of bringing the road and providing some kind of delivery or drop off or something like that. Bringing the road in a bit, curb in to provide something like that. Like those are things I think that would help address some of those impacts to the surrounding area. Might be things that could possibly be added. Just to kind of ideate with you, including like the trash concern. I live over this way. I live on Nichols, so but I think all of your trash is like on the back right corner along Washington Street. So that would obviously mean that trucks have to continue down that way. That's more trash or 20 units worth on that street. So if that can be repositioned or somehow worked out that it comes back to Nichols, things like that I think would help address some of those specific impact concerns.
Yeah, and one of
if it
those,
works.
Yeah, and one of those particular things very common in neighborhoods or buildings like this to have to do with private trash pickup where they have to physically wheel the totes to where the designated pickup spot is, which is something that can definitely be explored. It's not something that we have thought 100% fully into at this moment, but it is.
Yeah, but if those could be kind of integrated earlier, right, and build around those. And then I think one of the other concerns, so from the first design to the second design, the way that traffic comes onto the lot and off, I think we talked about that last time you guys came. Here you have one throughway coming off of Elm onto Washington and out. I don't know if it makes any sense to have that outlet be on Nichols, Rice, Washington, if that helps relieve anything, I don't know. But I'm sure a traffic study will kind of help look at some of that, but just keeping some of that traffic off of the, basically the narrower street. It also reduces one more turn by having them outlet right onto Nichols, if that makes sense that way. Just little things like that that come to mind that I think would address some of those impact concerns that way. I'm gonna get those out last.
No, well, you're on the TRC, so, no, I thought you were. So those would address, some of those items would address where you're having issues on the whole meeting, the significant impact.
The greater than 16 significant impact to the area, I think would help alleviate some of those in my mind.
Okay, let's move to 3245C3. Some of this is redundant. The first one though is A, the proposed use is suitable for the location would not cause measurable adverse impacts to the environment and public safety. Comment on that. As far as how you would feel like this would be that.
It's in a residential neighborhood, it's a residential use. We find that particular use fits in very well as opposed to introducing a commercial element to the ground floor, which could bring even more people to the area, which not 100% sure if that is welcome or not in that neighborhood based on comments today. But we do feel like a residential use makes a lot of sense in this particular location, especially with its proximity to downtown.
Anything relative to adverse impacts to environment and public safety? It would not cause that.
Yeah. We did a environmental phase one and nothing came up with that.
Traffic into the area.
We're providing the traffic impact analysis. From public safety, fair point again, we are formalizing the sidewalk and crosswalks better at the intersection with Nickel, and also we're correcting the very unsafe deficiency where the stop bar is in front of the crosswalk, so that we want to have a crosswalk in front of the stop bar so that when people come up and try to cross Nichols walking down Elm, that they're in front of the car and not behind the car. So we're looking at that. We're looking at the public safety of correcting the drainage.
Yeah. Before you get off that, why would the town public works not be able to do that today?
Why is it there anyway? I have no idea. But when we see that and when we're adding on ADA accessible current tip downs at all those intersections on two of them to correct deficiencies that don't meet code today, that's stuff that we're taking on to improve. Probably the town sees it as a low bar of they have bigger fish to deal with.
The proposal has these off-site improvements that the town has not.
Yes. We're correcting some drainage at the intersection on Washington. We're adding a drain that's not in the right of way, putting it in the right of way to improve drainage there. And we're removing drainage that's directed in that direction that's causing their problem out towards Elm Street to reduce the public safety issue of the icing and all those other hazards that are occurring with runoff at the intersection of Washington and Nichols. Yes, we're changing turning radius as suggested by Lindsay to get that turning radius actually into the right of way instead of on private property.
I do agree with Zach about having a sidewalk along the right side of Nichols Ave.
We certainly can, we can look at doing that.
In the street without having to go back and forth.
Yeah, and it avoids people walking in the street or crossing that intersection that you talked about, like the stop bar being in front of the crosswalk. You would
Yeah,
minimize that.
and in the current design, we were prioritizing landscaping in there because as soon as we add the sidewalk, it takes up 5 feet of 150 foot in length of impervious surface.
Yeah.
But it's all in the right of way. We could actually provide that if that's something that the town really wants. I see no issue other than
Yeah, I think
a positive impact from safety. There is an increase in runoff.
Yeah.
There's less landscaping, but I think there's a public safety benefit.
Yeah, I just think hearing about some of those concerns that might alleviate. Obviously, there's some trade-offs that you just pointed out between the two motivations, but I think public safety, in my mind, would outweigh some of those landscaping concerns. So I think that would be, it would go a long way in impacting that public safety criteria.
Just one more thing about the stormwater, we don't have to resolve it tonight because of time later, but I just wondered, have you looked at the regs and our redevelopment requirements and we're treating 30% of existing and 50% of the new impervious?
So we're only adding 2,000 square feet of impervious overall on the site. Nothing is treated today.
I know,
Yeah.
I know.
No,
We
no,
got
no,
water
but
quality
just-
issues now,
yeah.
so we're trying to
And
address.
so all the runoff, almost all the runoff associated with the impervious is roof runoff. So we have very small areas that are getting contaminant runoff. We're providing a couple stormwater management areas to balance the runoff and provide treatment.
That's great. I'm glad you're doing that. Well, you can talk more about that. I just wanted to make
That's
sure
all we get.
you
Well,
read.
and that's under our regs, the requirement of
Right.
Right. So you believe you would meet that criteria? Jane or Justin, any comments about A? Do you feel like what they would be looking for from the applicant to ensure they can meet this? So then we get the proposed building type is consistent with the building types permitted in the zoning district. So is this building type, is it consistent with other building types within the BC district? What is the applicant's position on that?
We actually find that the building itself actually represents more of a 4 to 12 unit Main Street structure due to its size. Granted, with that particular building, typology, it's still a smaller structure meant for a smaller lot than what we have here. So, as I mentioned earlier, 17,000 square feet trying to really get what we can.
Any members of the board have any comments about whether or not they think that going to the large, what is the actual name?
Large Main Street.
Large Main Street. So, any comments on whether or not the board feels they can meet that criteria or not?
Yeah, I think, I'll be very brief, just to kind of to this point, as I've already said, but I think it matches the village corridor center writ large, right, in terms of it matches the mill buildings, doesn't match the max size. So I think that you're kind of marrying the max size with what you kind of see in the town. So I think in that sense, it technically meets it within that village corridor from a appearance standpoint. So you guys did, I think, try to marry that, and I understand you try to marry it with blending it into the rest of the neighborhood. It's still not technically the proposed building height per se, but it does marry the kind of other Main Street typologies, just on a bigger scale.
Justin?
Got nothing more.
Bill?
I agree with Zach, so not the ideal, but it kind of blends a couple different things.
Jane?
I think my previous statement spoke for itself.
Right, and then the final one is the proposed setback and structure height is consistent with either the setback, structure height, or both of existing buildings located on adjacent lots. I think you had a visual of what is happening on adjacent lots and setbacks.
Height one.
Yeah, so it's the setback and structure height consistent with either the setbacks or structure heights of existing buildings located on adjacent lots. Going to speak to that.
So in this graphic, again, the hatched area is what can be developed in the future per the zoning ordinance for height and building volume and setback.
The criteria is consistent with either the setbacks, structure height, or both of existing buildings located on adjacent lots.
Yes, and by stepping down towards the rear, we are getting down towards that closer to that height. So as Zach has mentioned, this is the transition zone, which we're trying to get closer to these structure heights. So for instance, the structure is just a couple feet shorter.
So your structure is shorter than the adjacent?
No. This structure in R3, different zone,
Yep.
is shorter than what we have by just a feet.
Yeah, this is for adjacent lots, it doesn't matter what the district is. The criteria is adjacent. So is the height, as shown here, how does the height of the building compare to the adjacent lots?
It is still slightly taller.
Height, how is it?
35. So it's probably, to be safe, I'd probably say 4 or 5 feet. If we're talking peak to peak, not to the midpoint, which is how building heights are supposed to be measured.
Yeah, so I guess having that kind of specific number both in the back, all the adjacent there, I think will just help kind of illustrate that clearer, how that compares to those two in the adjacent lots.
Street too.
Yeah, across the street. Yeah. So I think just having that actual numbers that you can estimate for us.
And it would appear to me that the setbacks of adjacent structures may even have a greater setback than some of your adjacent structures. I think C would be met. C would be met.
It was there to demonstrate that it's consistent with setbacks of adjacent structures.
Can I
Right,
just
it has
ask
to be one or the other.
Can I just ask a clarification question on the zoning? Because This is saying that it may modify the structure height, or the structure height standards, but we are still meeting the structure height.
No, I understand, this is for the special use permit under 3245C3, and one of the findings is relative to the proposed setback and structure height is consistent with either the setbacks, structure height, or both of existing buildings located on adjacent lots. So to meet the special use criteria under here, it's relative to, this part has determined that you need to meet this criteria.
Yeah, it's a building type.
But I think if you look at your, the survey plan again, it would seem to me that you're consistent with the setbacks of adjacent. Because one of them's right against the sidewalk.
That's about it, so
So I don't think anyone would have an issue with them meeting that criteria.
Yeah, I think it's just the adjacent heights that isn't immediately clear. Can you see that better?
It's either.
Okay, that was
It's
my,
either.
that was really where my question was
Yes,
going
yes,
with
it's
here.
either.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, I see where you're getting at, too.
But the way that's written.
Need either or both.
Either or both. And then do people have issues with, 3245C2, which is really about the lengths. Obviously, it's a very unique lot because it's it's huge relative to the district. The length along Elm Street, it's being 73 feet, which is exceeding the 50 foot. And Nichols Ave 142, so it's exceeding 100.
Yeah, it's exceeding 100 feet along Nichols, exceeding 50 feet on.
So do any of the board members have an issue with the applicant, with this concept, granting a waiver from that particular, item C2? And giving relief from the length of the building.
And that's connected to C3, so again. Using that criteria. C3. Because they're modifying the place.
Oh, but I think under well, these are applicable, we have the ability to waive them under
C3. True.
Yeah, well, it's both, right? Because they could still do the same, buildings type, but you need the length of the buildings. Just want to make sure that we're hitting, so you understand that we're going through each of the criteria.
So the question is the board comfortable with them exceeding?
Correct.
Yeah, what was the dimensions?
100 feet on Nichols is what's permitted, and 50 feet on.
Yeah, what was the actual?
140 on Nichols.
74.
Yeah. Plus or minus.
That was trying to get a sense of how much difference there was between the way over, close. That was trying to get a sense of.
40%. Some of what's driving those numbers is also trying to, again, provide all the parking and provide within the building footprint. So we're trying to comply with that in some manner by all the pushing and pulling that you just mentioned.
And I think it's important to go back to the road frontage minimum. This whole idea of subdivision, 0 lot lines for one building, or a percentage if it's subdivided. The minimum road frontage is 40 feet. So from a subdivision perspective, they can certainly do the assemblages to circumvent this.
Yeah. Yeah, if you did like a townhouse style or road building type things.
Or same concept with 0 lot line, and you're just moving
They just have to demonstrate that the buildings aren't
section.
connected.
Yeah, I don't think that part, like that strict part bothers me as much as how it relates back to like the public safety bill, sight lines, the like access for things, I think.
Yeah.
It's less that specific number that's a sticking point, it's more the impact of that sizing relative to the lot causes, I guess, for me. So I think for me, if the other items, the impacts are addressed, I think that makes that other component kind of communicate that way. So I think pending those other items, makes it, I'm good with the size relative to those other impacts being addressed. Basically.
I would agree. I mean, we're talking about pros and cons of 3 buildings, 4 buildings, pushing it on this. We want to push it to more subdividing, and we do have a building that's almost along across the street. It's pretty true. I guess, yeah,
Zach, as far as this element, you opposed or have other comments for the applicant? Okay. So you have a lot of comments from the public, and I think you've heard concerns from the board. Do you have any additional questions for the board at this time?
I think we're all set.
Right, we really appreciate everyone's here.
Well, we
appreciate the importance of your patience.
Yeah, we really appreciate all your time. There's a few of you that are left. But thank you. Thank you for hearing us out.
Absolutely, appreciate it. Okay, we have 5 minutes before we have to vote to. So head out here. Okay. And I've left the public, we really need to, do you want to continue the public hearing on this? We don't need to, just need to review, they're good. I know, then they got to leave. They didn't ask for it. So. Thank you, everyone, appreciate that.
They didn't ask you to do the public hearing?
No, they have what I think they need at this point, because it's, it's really input.
Yeah, so the next step, if they want to, they can either come back for another design review, or they can move forward with technical review.
Do you have to approve what the ordinance says you can approve?
I'll answer this briefly. If an application is filed before this board that meets all of the criteria of the zoning ordinance, it doesn't require any waivers or special, use permits, variances, exceptions, yes. But the applicant would have to provide an application that meets all of the criteria.
From what I'm hearing tonight, people sound like they're okay with the length and the height.
I think
one
that
or the other.
Well, I don't want to get into, we kind of close the hearing.
Non-binding
So,
design
yeah.
review, we gave suggestions, it's not a formal application.
Thank you really all for your work and your consideration. I really appreciate you walking the whole.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next, is there anything critical in committee reports?
You get any tips?
No, no, I mean, are there any applications coming before us for wetland waivers? I think that's the thing with the planning board. Okay, so maybe we'll postpone that till next month. Pretty good, okay, all right. Bart, anything critical for us in the planners report?
We got a grant for coastal resiliency grant to help us with Shannon Park planning for 42 grand. So that's going to help us with our community engagement outreach as we do. So that will start next late spring, summer. It coincides with these stormwater planning grant as well, so it kind of parallel tracks at the same time. So stay tuned. Depending on schedule, Ivy will be coming for a presentation in September for her the HOP grant recommendations for zoning. I can do this offline, but I would like to do, trying to plan like an all boards meeting for wayfinding. So we have a wayfinding branding, so this is like our comprehensive sign, directional, like to parking or downtown points of interest. So I'll be in contact with you all and other boards to all come together and do an exercise. And we're going to do a lot of other community engagement to get public input. We're going to do survey. We're going to be backyard baths, arts in the park. So we're going to, again, ramp that up. CIP's coming up, Jane. So get ready. That'll start in August. Rosa project, we're still on track for closing for October. So we're just getting all the pertinent, requisite documents. Development projects, 200 New Road. They haven't come back yet, but they're working through the state process, AOT and DES. Subsurface, the supplemental comments submitted from town. So again, that'll be still go through the TRC process most likely. 37 Exeter Road will come for the board at some point. That's the blue house, the dilapidated one on Exeter Road. They'll be coming for review at some point in the next couple of months. Same thing with 41 Exeter Road. That'll go to TRC. That's on the corner of New Road and Exeter Road. It's going to be a subdivision application, major site plan with funeral holders, old funeral home.
Main Street.
That is my understanding. It was lined up and ready to go, but I haven't heard from you yet. So I'll follow up with them. Hive Chapel, they come for stormwater review. They're going to be doing some stormwater improvements. That's behind the post office there. So they'll be coming in probably September. And then 11 Creighton Street, town owns. We have 1 minute. Do you want to vote to extend?
Yeah.
Yes, but
So I'll
sorry.
make a motion to extend the.
Motion to extend the investment meeting.
Second.
All right, all those in favor?
Alright, sorry guys, I tried. Boundary line adjustment application, so the idea for that, we have to mostly go to ZBA first for a variance for dimensional relief in order to give as much land to the town as possible for Shandon Park. So if that is successful, then town will be presented a boundary line adjustment plan to finalize it. And I was hoping for a goal setting session next agenda, but we might still have to go through the master plan.
Let's go through the master plan.
Yeah, so, but that's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, and then just general comment, people should be careful about posting anything on social media as a board member, because then that could be grounds for bias in applications that come before us. So there's a lot of chatter out there on social media about, proposals or different things. Just be cautious about making any comments. So that would be how we should be acting as a board. Other than that, I think it's a very good night for everyone to go home. I need a motion.
You just did it.
Motion to adjourn. Is there a second?
Second.
That's it. All right, all those in favor? Thank you.
Thank you. Good night. I don't know.